And we're back here at Boom and Bust. I'm here with my guest, Dr. Trevor Tombe. He is a professor of economics at the University of Calgary. We're just going over sort of what are the options of the Carney government to, with all of these additional spending requirements or decisions, and where does the money come from? I guess another area where it comes from is higher economic growth. That's probably the one that politicians like the best. What do you think our prospects for that are?
This is a great question, and certainly economic growth is something we should pursue, hands down. So everything I'm about to say is not an argument against growth. So it means higher income, higher living standards, greater purchasing power of our income. It also means higher government revenue, because as our incomes grow, income tax revenue grows. As we purchase more goods and services, sales tax revenue grows. So it does increase government revenue. But with the military spending commitment itself tied to the size of Canada's economy, a larger economy means a greater increase in military spending. And so if we do have a faster pace of economic growth, revenues do rise, no question, but spending rises as well. Add to that some of the transfers to provinces are also a function of economic growth, like the health transfer, like equalization. And so on the spending side of the budget, that too would increase with economic growth. So economic growth, absolutely, no question. We've been neglecting it for some time now, for many years, and I think that does need to change. And I'm a little optimistic that indeed it will in the coming years, but that's not going to be something that will address the core fiscal challenges that we face over the coming 10 years.
Right. So it's not a panacea. That's your point. Can I just return to the spending review just for a second? Because one of my roles in government over a decade ago was to do the last big spending review. We cut around 8.9% in operational funding at that time. But that was at a smaller budget. Like the budget is a lot bigger than when I was in government. I would say there's probably a little bit more fat as a result of that. So maybe it's going to be easier for the Carney government to find areas to cut than it was in the Harper government with a budget that was, $150 billion less than it is right now. I mean, are you fairly hopeful that they'll be able to find areas that don't cut close to the bone?
So I think they certainly could if they wanted to. I think some, as you know, certainly better than I, sometimes there are some no-brainers available to lower spending in government without really adversely affecting certain programs that deliver to Canadians. But sometimes you do have to make a little bit tougher decisions around whether or not a program should exist or not. Is it still fulfilling its objectives? Has the economic and other circumstances changed relative to when the program was initiated? So those kind of decisions are less about efficiency and more just about the appropriate role of government. This was how, for example, Paul Martin significantly lowered spending in the 90s, kind of going program by program, asking whether or not it made sense, asking other questions. Is this something the federal government should do, or should it be left to provinces? That was another test that they applied. They also asked, is this a program that government should do, or should it be left to private sector or non-governmental organizations? That was another test that was applied. So if you really want to move the needle in a meaningful way on spending, then you need to go beyond just pure efficiencies. You do need to ask tougher questions about what the government should be doing. Now, if we look at the size of the federal government's program spending right now, it's about $11,000 per person or so at the end of the last fiscal year. That is compared to about $8,200 per person relative to the kind of tail end of the Harper administration. So 11,000 relative to 8,200, that gives you a sense of the inflation-adjusted per capita size of the federal government rising by $2,800 per person. And so right there alone is something on the order of $110 billion or so. I'm just kind of quickly doing math in my head there.
Sure.
So there's certainly scope there. But asking tougher questions about whether government should or shouldn't be doing things, leaving things to provinces, leaving things to NGOs would also need to be a part of the conversation to get that scale of reduction.
Yes, I think you've termed it very very well in terms of some of the scope and some of the challenges to deal with that aspect of government spending. We're going to continue our conversation right after these messages with Dr. Trevor Tombe. Stay with us.